Hi guys, welcome back to the YouTube channel. This is episode 5 of the channel, and in this episode we'll be talking about current trends in prosthetics. In previous episodes I've spoken about the history of prosthetics, and in this episode we'll be talking about the current trends as in where we are today and where we're going to possibly in the future. Let's start with lower extremity prosthetics. What is that? That means that lower limb prosthetics, as in the legs. After amputation, a patient loses their ability to walk. That is, they lose their muscles, so they're not able to propel themselves forward from point A to B as they used to before their amputation. Now, new technology tries to bridge that gap in the sense that what we're trying to do now is that we are using componentry that allows a patient to be able to walk or to emulate a normal walking pattern without compensation and limping. Okay, what I mean by compensation is that as one is limping, the rest of the body takes strain and too much energy is being used. So with new technology, the aim is so that we bridge and we stop that limping and that abnormal walking pattern so that the patient is able to use less energy to propel themselves forward as well as to move around in their area. A prosthesis usually is suspended on the residual limb of a patient by means of a socket. And a socket is a shell that is basically created to encompass what's left of the leg post-amputation. In simpler terms, a socket is what the stompy, meaning the residual limb, goes into so that the patient can use their prosthetic leg. Why is the socket so important, you might be asking me. But a socket is a very big part of the prosthesis because if it doesn't fit well, then your prosthesis doesn't work well. In the sense that you will either have pistoning, that is, you will go in and out of your socket. If it doesn't fit well, you will not walk well, you will sweat, you'll have all sorts of issues, and the problem root cause would be an ill-fitting socket. The kind of sockets that are trending now, we're talking about ischial containment. That means that it will contain your ischial bone as it is shown in the background. There's also a total contact socket, which means that the entire surface of the stump is literally in the socket. There's also a new technology, Yali socket, whereby we call it a socketless socket, meaning that the bigger parts of the sockets are gone, and what we have now is just the reinforcements, and they're held together by Velcro. There's a wide variety of socket designs all over the world, but for this video, we're doing current trends, hence just these few. In transfemoral and through knee amputations, we have a knee joint forming part of the prosthetic system. Now, there are two types of knee joints that we'd like to talk about, and these are the ones that are trending and are being used a lot. Now, we're seeing that patients are using the mechanical knee joint, which is a cheaper option in terms of knee joints. That is, it's very simple. What happens is that it has hinges inside it, and then it controls friction and it locks. That is, there's only certain movements that a patient is able to do and not so much. And then there's the microprocessor knee, which has an internal computer inside, which is a microprocessor. And what the microprocessor basically does is that it adjusts itself in the sense that if you're walking, it will keep adjusting itself according to the kind of terrain that you're walking on, the kind of movement you're doing. If you're walking forward or backwards, it adjusts on its own, and most of them are battery controlled. Prosthetic feet. Manufacturers now are moving towards a direction that produces feet that are able to have real-time terrain adaptation. They're able to provide a powered plantar flexion, absorb ground impact, and when your heel striking. So they allow you to walk more naturally, reduce the stresses on the body, and they allow one to be able to propel themselves better as they are walking. Cosmesis and feet, we also seeing that ankles are able now to adapt to heel heights. Yes, ladies, if you're a lady and you love your heels, once you've been amputated, you can still wear your heels. That is, your ankle can still be adapted and adjusted. Now we'll be talking about liners. What are liners, you ask? Liners is the interface between the socket and the residual limb of a patient. Literally, it's like a sock that a patient puts on. What we're seeing is that we're seeing a lot of silicone liners that are being fabricated, and patients are preferring those because also they allow the patient to sweat less. They're able to absorb most of the sweat. And they also provide a great cushioning inside the socket. A patient is able to run, to take pressure on the residual limb, even if it was sensitive before at times. And patients are much more happier with the liners that are silicone. Alright, trends in upper extremity prosthetics. Mostly what we're seeing now is a very great rise in bionic hands and arms. That means that what they do is that they use a sensor system to flex, extend, and to use the fingers and the wrist and the rest of the joints that have been lost by a patient. Finally, we'll be talking cosmesis, which means that appearance of a prosthetic leg or arm, which means aesthetics and how it looks. What we're seeing now is we're seeing a lot of silicone covers which are close to natural look. We're seeing new colors in terms of complexion. So most complexions are catered for from Caucasian to black people to all different kinds of races. We're also seeing that ladies' toes look cuter and very nice, and you're able to apply nail polish on it. And at the same time, there's also your hair. If you want to have your hair, it can be integrated into your prosthesis so that it looks a bit more natural. Also knuckles, we're getting knuckles in arms as well. It's looking great. As I've said before, the prosthetic industry is forever evolving, and if there's anything new that's coming up, you'll be sure to find it right here on this channel. Now from me, Matladi Ledwaba, that's the end of the episode. Until next time, don't forget to subscribe and to like. Thank you guys!